At first glance, it sounds like a harmless question, maybe even a curious one. But when someone asks you this, pay attention. Not to the words themselves, but to the hidden motive behind them. Because this is rarely a question of understanding. It is a tactic of control. When someone asks, "Why are you so defensive?" what they are really doing is planting a seed of doubt in your mind. They want you to believe that your natural response, your boundary, your attempt to protect yourself is wrong. In one short sentence, they attempt to turn the spotlight away from their behavior and place it entirely on you. And if you're not alert, you may fall into the trap of defending yourself against an accusation that was never real in the first place. Think about it. Why would someone ask this? If you feel attacked, if you feel belittled, if your instincts tell you that something is off, why shouldn't you protect yourself? Why shouldn't you stand your ground? But instead of acknowledging your right to speak up, they twist the moment into a trap. Suddenly, you're no longer addressing their action. You're addressing your own reaction. They've flipped the script, and without realizing it, you're now on trial. This is the genius of manipulative questioning. It reframes the situation to benefit the one asking. The accuser becomes the victim. The one who crossed a line suddenly looks innocent while you appear unstable, sensitive, or unreasonable. Why are you so defensive? Isn't a search for truth. It's a smokescreen designed to make you question yourself. The danger lies in how easily this question burrows into the mind. You might start thinking, am I too sensitive? Am I overreacting? Maybe I shouldn't have spoken up at all. And once you begin doubting your right to express yourself, the manipulator has already won, because that is the goal: to silence you, to make you retreat, to keep you from holding them accountable. But here's the deeper truth. Defensiveness is not always weakness. In fact, defensiveness is often a signal of self-respect. It is the psyche's natural alarm system. Just as your body reacts to pain by pulling away from fire, your mind reacts to threats by erecting walls of protection. To be defensive is not to be flawed. It is to be alive, aware, and unwilling to be harmed. Yet manipulators exploit the very mechanism designed to protect you. They know that if they label your defense as a problem, you will feel pressure to drop it. You will soften, explain yourself, apologize, or try to prove that you are not too defensive. And the moment you do, you hand them power. You've abandoned your fortress, and they walk freely into your mental space. This is why awareness matters. When you hear, "Why are you so defensive?" you must resist the urge to answer the question directly, because answering it validates the trap. Instead, turn inward. Ask yourself, why does this person want me to lower my guard? What do they gain from me silencing my own defense? What truth are they trying to hide behind this accusation? Often, the answer is simple. They fear exposure. They don't want you to call them out. They don't want to face accountability for their words or actions. So they take the attention off themselves and project it onto you. By questioning your defense, they distract you from questioning their offense. This is not just about personal conversations. It happens in relationships, in workplaces, in families, and even in society at large. Institutions use the same trick. Label resistance as irrational, dismiss pushback as overreacting, and silence truth by attacking the defender rather than addressing the offense. It is a pattern as old as human interaction. Control the narrative, and you control the people. But here lies the paradox. Those who accuse you of being defensive are often the very ones who are most defensive themselves. Their question is not born out of clarity, it is born out of projection. They cannot face their own shadow, so they accuse you of carrying it. They cannot tolerate being exposed, so they flip the spotlight on you by calling you defensive. They defend themselves from the truth they cannot bear to acknowledge. So the next time someone asks you, why are you so defensive? Pause. Do not react in haste. Do not fall into the trap of justifying yourself. Instead, see the question for what it truly is, a mask. Behind the mask is fear, control, and insecurity. And behind your defensiveness is something far more powerful. Your instinct to protect your boundaries, your right to stand in your truth, your refusal to surrender your voice. This question comes wrapped in the language of affection, but beneath its surface lies one of the most dangerous tools of manipulation, emotional blackmail. On the surface, it sounds like a test of love, of loyalty, of your goodness as a human being. But at its core, it is not about love at all. It is about control. When someone says, if you really cared, wouldn't you? They are not seeking genuine proof of your care. They are trying to tether your worth, your intentions, and your actions to their expectations. In this single question, they redefine what care means on their terms. And if you're not conscious, you will find yourself performing, sacrificing, and bending your boundaries just to prove a care that was never in question in the first place. Think carefully about the structure of this question. It sets a trap with two parts. First, it assumes you care, and second, it defines what caring must look like. The manipulator makes themselves the sole authority over whether your care is valid. If you agree to their demand, you prove your care. If you don't, you automatically appear uncaring, heartless, or selfish. This is not love. It is a rigged game where the rules were written to keep you losing. Real care, real affection, real love, these things do not need tests. They reveal themselves through presence, through action, through authenticity. They flow naturally, not because someone cornered you with a question, but because they rise from within. The moment love is measured by compliance, it stops being love and becomes submission. And that is what the manipulator seeks, not your love, but your submission. The question, if you really cared, wouldn't you? Attacks your identity. It presses on your conscience, on your desire to be seen as good, loyal, and compassionate. It exploits your natural human tendency to want to nurture and protect. And in doing so, it creates guilt. Suddenly, saying no feels like betrayal. Holding boundaries feels like cruelty. The manipulator has rewritten reality so that the only way to prove you are a caring person is to obey them. But think of the deeper psychology at work. Why does this question sting so much? Because it strikes at the fear of being misunderstood. To care deeply is part of human nature, and when someone implies that your care is not enough, or worse, that it doesn't exist, you feel compelled to defend yourself. You rush to show, to prove, to demonstrate. And in that rush, you forget that real care is not proven under pressure. It simply exists. Those who use this question know exactly what they are doing. They may not always be conscious of it, but they understand its effect. It corners you into compliance. It makes you feel that disagreement equals betrayal, and it cloaks their demand in such convincing language that it feels wrong to resist. But let us be clear, this is not the voice of love. This is the voice of coercion. True love does not demand performance. True care does not weaponize guilt. When someone loves you, they will never need to ask, if you really cared, wouldn't you? Because they already feel the truth of your care. They see it in your presence, in your effort, in the way you stand beside them even when you cannot give them everything they want. Real love accepts boundaries. Manipulation tries to erase them. Notice also how open-ended the question is, wouldn't you? It leaves a blank space, an empty canvas onto which the manipulator can project any demand. If you really cared, wouldn't you lend me money? Wouldn't you cancel your plans? Wouldn't you sacrifice your needs? The demand can shift, but the trap remains the same. It binds your identity as a caring person to whatever they insert after the phrase. And if you resist, you are painted as cold, uncaring, or selfish. This is why awareness is crucial. The moment you hear this question, pause. Recognize that it is not truly about your care. It is about their attempt to measure and control it. Ask yourself, why does this person need me to prove my care? Why is my existing effort not enough? And what are they really trying to gain from this demand? Most of the time, the answer is clear. They are not testing your care. They are testing how much of yourself you are willing to give up. And if you comply once, they learn that this question works. It becomes a pattern. Every time they want more, they pull it out again. And slowly, your care is no longer an act of love, but a performance under pressure, a reaction to guilt, a surrender to control. This cycle erodes not only your boundaries, but your sense of self. Because deep down, you know that care should never feel like this. Care should not leave you drained, resentful, or guilty. Care should not be proven through sacrifice after sacrifice. Real care should strengthen both the giver and the receiver, not diminish one for the sake of the other. So when you hear, if you really cared, wouldn't you? Recognize it for the manipulation it is. Recognize that the question is not about your love, it is about their control. Recognize that you have nothing to prove, because true care is lived, not coerced, and anyone who cannot see that is not asking for love, but for power over you. At first, it sounds like a harmless observation, maybe even a piece of feedback disguised as concern. But hidden inside this question is one of the most common and subtle weapons of manipulation, the pressure of the crowd. When someone says this to you, they are not presenting truth. They are presenting an illusion designed to corner you into agreement. The phrase begins with, everyone thinks. Notice how heavy those words feel. They carry the weight of an entire group, an invisible majority, a faceless chorus supposedly united in their judgment of you, whether or not this everyone even exists. The manipulator has already set the stage. The idea is simply, if everyone thinks something about you, then you must be wrong to resist it. And if you disagree, you're not just opposing one person, you're opposing the collective. This tactic is as old as human interaction itself. Human beings are wired to belong. From the earliest tribes to modern society, survival often depended on acceptance. Rejection from the group once meant death, and even today, the fear of being cast out lingers in the human psyche. Manipulators know this. They know that if they invoke the crowd, if they suggest that everyone already agrees, you will feel pressure to conform. But here's the hidden danger. Everyone rarely means everyone. It usually means no one, or at most a handful of people. The manipulator inflates the scope of judgment to make it appear overwhelming. Instead of saying, "I think this about you," which could be debated, they say, "Everyone thinks this about you," which feels irrefutable. They are borrowing the authority of an imaginary group to make their opinion appear like undeniable fact. This technique is not about truth. It is about silencing resistance. Because once you believe that the crowd is against you, the urge to defend yourself grows weaker. You begin to think, if everyone already believes this, what's the point of resisting? Maybe it's easier to just agree, and the moment you agree, you surrender your power. You validate the illusion, and you confirm their manipulation. Consider the subtle psychology of this question. When someone asks, "Don't you agree?" it doesn't sound like a demand. It sounds like an invitation. But it is not an invitation to think. It is an invitation to submit. The words push you toward only one acceptable answer, yes. To say, no feels like rebellion, like denial of the supposed consensus. And so the trap is sprung. The real test is not whether everyone thinks something about you. The real test is whether you can hold your truth, even when others attempt to define you. The manipulator is not asking because they care about what you think. They are asking because they want to corner you into thinking what they want. But think about the absurdity of the tactic. Who exactly is everyone? Where are they? Did they speak with you? Did they voice their thoughts? Most of the time, no. The crowd is a shadow, a mask, a tool. It doesn't exist in the way the manipulator suggests. And even if there are a few voices behind it, the question remains, why should the judgment of others define who you are? The manipulator knows that identity is fragile when tied to external approval. They exploit this fragility by suggesting that disapproval is unanimous. The hope is that you will retreat into compliance, that you will accept their narrative to avoid conflict with the group. But the truth is, the group is an illusion created to magnify their own opinion. There is another layer here. People who use this tactic often fear their own perspective is not strong enough to stand on its own. Instead of saying, "I believe this," they hide behind the shield of everyone. They cannot risk being challenged directly, so that they disperse their opinion into a faceless mass. That way, if you resist, you are not resisting them. You are resisting the crowd, and that feels heavier, harder, more dangerous. This is projection in disguise. The manipulator projects their own insecurity outward, disguising it as consensus. They project their own doubt about being believed, so they invoke the imaginary support of others. It is not strength, it is weakness wearing the mask of authority. So what happens when you refuse to be pulled in? When you hear, "Everyone thinks this about you," don't you agree? And you pause instead of agreeing. The illusion begins to crumble because the manipulator has no real evidence of everyone. They cannot summon the crowd they claim to speak for. Their power depends entirely on your belief in the illusion. And once you stop believing, the spell is broken. The deeper truth is that your worth, your identity, and your reality are not up for a vote. They cannot be measured by the supposed opinions of everyone. Real confidence is forged not in the approval of the many, but in the clarity of your own inner voice. Real strength is not in agreeing to avoid conflict, but in standing firm against the tide of false consensus. When you see through this tactic, you begin to recognize how often it appears in daily life, in relationships, in workplaces, in society at large. The phrase may change, but the tactic remains the same: appeal to the crowd, silence the individual, create pressure to conform, the antidote is always the same: awareness. Awareness that the crowd may not exist. Awareness that even if it does, truth is not defined by numbers. Awareness that everyone is not the same as reality, and that no one has the right to use the illusion of consensus to define who you are. At first, it might sound like a question of concern. It might even feel like the other person is checking in on your well-being. But beneath its surface, this question often carries something much heavier than concern. It carries doubt. It is not always asked to protect you. More often, it is asked to weaken you. When someone says, "Are you sure you can handle this?" they are planting a seed in your mind, a seed that makes you pause, second guess yourself, and question your own capacity. That seed grows quickly because self-doubt is one of the most fertile soils in the human psyche. Even the strongest people can feel shaken when someone else suggests they might not be strong enough. This is why the question is so powerful as a manipulative tool. It does not openly accuse you of weakness. It merely hints at it. It creates a subtle shadow of uncertainty, a whisper that lingers in your thoughts. And once the whisper is inside you, you begin doing the manipulator's work for them. You start replaying your abilities, dissecting your confidence, convincing yourself that maybe they're right. Notice the structure of this question. It doesn't ask, "Can you handle this?" which is direct. It asks, "Are you sure?" That small phrase transforms the entire meaning. It suggests that your certainty is flawed, that your confidence is misplaced, that your preparation is not enough. It tells you, without saying it outright, that the other person sees something you don't. And the moment you internalize that suggestion, doubt takes root. The truth is, very few people ask this question from a place of genuine care. More often, it comes from insecurity, control, or competition. They want you to hesitate because your hesitation gives them leverage. They want you to second guess because your second guessing makes them appear wiser, stronger, or more capable. Doubt in their hands becomes a weapon. Think about the situations where this question usually appears. You are about to take a big step, start a new project, chase a dream, make a bold move, speak your truth. In that moment, you carry momentum. You are moving forward with energy, with courage. Then comes the question, "Are you sure you can handle this?" It does not matter how prepared you are. The words are enough to disrupt your flow. It's like someone placing a stone in the river of your confidence, trying to redirect its current. But here's the deeper psychology. People who ask this often reveal more about themselves than about you. Their doubt in you is a reflection of the doubt they carry in themselves. They cannot imagine handling what you are about to face, so they project that inability onto you. Instead of saying, "I don't think I could handle this," they say, "Are you sure you can?" The insecurity is theirs, but they wrap it as a question to make it yours. And if you absorb it, you will carry their fear alongside your own. Suddenly, the challenge feels twice as heavy, not because it truly is, but because you are no longer only battling reality, you are battling the ghost of someone else's doubt. That ghost is powerful because it feels like it lives inside your own thoughts. But if you trace it back, you'll see it didn't originate with you. It was planted there by someone who wanted to see you hesitate. The danger of this question is that it masquerades as protection. Sometimes manipulators use it to cloak control in the language of care. They'll say, "I just don't want to see you get hurt," or "I'm only asking because I worry about you." But if you look deeper, you realize their worry isn't about you. It's about losing their grip on you. Because if you prove you can handle it, if you rise above, if you succeed, then they can no longer hold power over you. This is why so many great steps in life are met with this question. Start a business. Are you sure you can handle this? Speak up against unfairness. Are you sure you can handle this? Walk away from toxic people. Are you sure you can handle this? It is almost predictable. The bigger the leap, the louder the doubt from those who do not want to see you soar. But look closely at the hidden strength inside this moment. If someone feels the need to ask whether you can handle it, it means they already see that you are daring to try. It means you are stepping outside the limits they thought would contain you. Their question is not proof of your weakness, it is proof of your courage. You are doing something bold enough to stir their insecurity. You are moving into territory they would rather you avoid. So the real question is not whether you can handle it, but whether you will let their words dictate your belief in yourself. Because the truth is, you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know every step ahead. Handling something is not about being free from fear or doubt. It is about moving forward despite them. Confidence is not the absence of uncertainty, it is the decision not to be ruled by it. And when someone asks, "Are you sure you can handle this?" you must remember that their words are not prophecy, they are not truth. They are an attempt to shape your reality through suggestion. The power of the question lies only in whether you accept it. If you refuse to take it in, if you see it for the tactic it is, the seed of doubt cannot grow, and what remains is the clarity that you were always capable, always strong enough, always ready to rise into what was meant for you. Few phrases in human interaction sound as tender, as intimate, or as disarming as those three words. Spoken in the right tone, they can melt walls and coax people into opening up. But spoken by the wrong person, or used at the wrong time, they become a velvet glove over an iron fist, a question that demands surrender rather than invites connection. When someone asks, "Don't you trust me?" pay attention to the space beneath the words, because that silence often speaks louder than the question itself. Trust is sacred. It is the quiet architecture that holds relationships together. Small acts accumulated day by day, the consistency of presence, the evidence of reliability. Trust grows slowly and cannot be conjured on command. Yet manipulative voices know how to weaponize the language of trust. They ask, "Don't you trust me?" Not to be reassured, but to demand compliance. In that demand, the question ceases to be an invitation and becomes a pressure. What makes this phrase so powerful is its ability to turn the moral compass. When asked, you feel the immediate tug between self-protection and the fear of appearing suspicious, ungrateful, or disloyal. You imagine the possible rupture, a wounded look, an offended sigh, the accusation that your doubt means you don't love them. That pressure is the manipulator's currency. They bank on your instinct to maintain harmony, to avoid conflict, to be seen as reasonable. The question leverages those instincts and converts them into obedience. Look at the subtle grammar. It's framed as a negative, "Don't you trust me?" which assumes that trust is the default and that your hesitation is a deviation. The burden shifts to you to defend your caution. When someone simply asks, "Do you trust me?" you could answer honestly without feeling accused. But the negative form implies a failure on your part, nudging you toward a defensive posture to explain, to reassure, to prove. That is the psychological sleight of hand. Make the other person the accused, and you will work to exonerate yourself. There is another dangerous layer, the conflation of distrust with betrayal. Manipulators often equate asking questions, seeking clarity, or setting boundaries with a failure of trust. They frame your need for evidence or consistency as personal rejection. "Don't you trust me?" becomes an emotional trap. Decline to acquiesce, and you are framed as the problem. In that frame, the true issue, someone asking for blind faith without accountability, gets buried. Trust, in its healthiest form, is reciprocal and earned. It is a visible thread traced through actions. There's the person who shows up when they say they will, who keeps confidences, who honors limits. Trust is not a favor to be demanded. It is a responsibility to be demonstrated. When someone asks you to leap before they have shown you the bridge, they are not inviting trust so much as testing your willingness to become vulnerable on their terms. This is not trust building. This is trust extraction. Consider projection. Those who demand trust often cannot trust themselves. Their urgings expose an anxiety about being seen as unreliable or a fear of being judged. Unable to tolerate that exposure, they insist that you provide the evidence of faith they themselves lack. In doing so, they attempt to offload their inner insecurity onto you. You are asked to carry the emotional labor of reassuring them, of proving loyalty, while they are absolved of demonstrating the very behaviors trust requires. There is also the social currency of guilt. "Don't you trust me?" can be a polite weapon of guilt tripping. It invites you to choose between your own judgment and the relationship. Choose yourself, and you risk being labeled cold or unloving. Choose them, and you risk surrendering your boundaries. Manipulation thrives where choices are designed to punish the self. The question is effective precisely because it offers a social penalty for autonomy. So how do you respond when someone asks this? The first step is to reframe the scene in your mind. This is a conversation about evidence, not character. Trust is not a binary switch thrown at the whim of someone else. You can say, without anger, trust grows from actions. "Help me see that this is safe." You can ask for what you need: time, proof, consistency, without being disloyal. You can name the pattern. "I hear you asking for trust. I want to trust you. And I also need to know that I can." Saying so does not make you unloving. It makes you wise. Remember, too, that refusing to be rushed into trust is not the same as refusing connection. In fact, true connection is protected by boundaries. Boundaries allow emotions to be expressed without being weaponized. When you do not give trust away impulsively, any trust that forms is more likely to be mutual, resilient, and real. The manipulator, deprived of immediate compliance, will sometimes escalate. Angry words, accusations, emotional withdrawal, because their power depends on keeping you off balance. That escalation is, paradoxically, more evidence that your caution was warranted. Finally, understand that you always have the right to your inner weather, your readiness, your doubts, your limits. Trust is an invitation you may accept in time, on terms that honor your well-being. No person has the moral authority to demand that you erase your doubts instantly. If someone cannot respect the pace at which you can safely build trust, then their request to be trusted is not a request for intimacy, but a demand for control. And when the question, "Don't you trust me?" is asked from the place of demand, the answer will not be found in bending to please, but in listening to the quiet voice that knows whether to open the door now, later, or not at all. After all, trust must be allowed to arrive organically. It cannot be coerced into existence by the simple pressure of a question, no matter how tenderly it is phrased. And when you hold that boundary, you protect not only yourself, but the very possibility of trust that is worth having. Because trust that is forced is not trust at all. It is compliance, and only through reciprocity, consistency, and time can trust be built into something that will carry you both through hardship, disappointment, and the messy truth of being human. When someone asks, "Don't you trust me?" invite them instead to show you, to prove their reliability, to meet you halfway, and to understand that trust is a living thing that requires tending, not a virtue to be claimed without effort. If they cannot tend to it, then their question reveals what it always did, a demand for unearned faith rather than an offer of demonstrated fidelity, and that is not a foundation on which to build anything real, because foundations require more than words. They require